Okay, so I'm in the middle of doing a track that needs really big space. It needs the sub to really kind of hang on in a way that I can't really get it from expanding it. Or there's a couple of really great plugins. What's it called? Let me see. I cannot remember for the life of me. Transgressor, which is a really good way to shape sub and drums and hang on to decay. But what I want to do is a bit different, and you have to be a bit careful doing this because I'm going to add reverb to this big sub boom. Let me just play it for you. I'll solo it. Right. And I'm going to use reverb to lengthen that tail massively. Now, you have to be careful with reverb and sub. You can't just think that you're going to chuck a 10 or 11 second reverb time on a sub and it's going to sit nicely under a track for the whole thing. It has to be well placed, and the reason I'm going to do it in this instant is because there's a lot of room in the track at this point. In fact, there's almost nothing else going on apart from a high drone. So to have that sub carried by reverb is exactly what I need to do. So what I think I'm going to do is give you a bit of a visual representation of what's doing. So I wouldn't normally put a reverb straight on a channel like this, apart from when I'm building sound design. So if I go here, and I'm going to go, I use this preset so much all the time, and I put this on, I don't touch it for sound design, because it sounds absolutely monstrous. 12-second reverb time. I am going to just blend it a little bit so you get the sort of attack of the boom, if there is much of an attack anyway. And you hear how that just hangs. I'm going to make that even more extreme. Right? Now, one thing to note is to make sure not to high pass filter your reverb. Sometimes, I mean, if you're using this preset, it doesn't look like it's a problem anyway, but sometimes when you load up a reverb, sometimes they'll have a high pass and a low pass on it, and sometimes they're already set, particularly if you're just going through presets looking for a long decay. Make sure you let the sub information through in this instance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend it there, and I'm going to use a pretty aggressive compressor. I think the only time I actually use this compressor is when I'm doing this kind of stuff, and it adds a little bit of grit because it's fun. And I'm going to add a bit of compression. Try that up a bit. And again, what that does is it just hangs onto the reverb. And gives it a really grainy, cool character as well. So we're really hanging on to that. Let me show you exactly what this is doing visually. Boom 1 extended. So that is our new boom, and you can see exactly how much extra hang time we're getting on that. Kind of, the compressor is hitting the transient pretty hard, and the reverb is mellowing it out as well. That's fine. Like, I think for this kind of thing, you could even run it in parallel with this original boom and just give it like a little fade in, so it's not getting away, because you have to be very careful with sub, and usually with a bit of refinement that can work quite nicely as well. and that's a pretty decent amount of low information for a decent amount of time that can really help thicken out a track when there's not a lot going on. And that's the important thing to remember, is when doing this kind of stuff, it works when there's not too much going on, or there's at least not a lot of sub-information or low end happening that's going to get in the way of this, because this will very easily get lost.